Okay, so yeah, good afternoon. So in this talk, I will come back to the security features and how the open hardware can benefit for hand security. So this is the outline of my talk. Okay, I will do it like that. Oh, sorry, stuck. Here it is. Okay. So I have uh, a couple of technical things actually to explain what are the security issues you can find, both in the chips which will compute, like let's say in the cloud, but also, and most importantly, for the chips you will find in some IoT devices. Okay, your smartphone, every let's say, object which is in the nature, okay, and which is connected and can be subject to some physical hacking, you know. And so the things I will mention actually, I have also a wish list about how to upgrade the features of the open hardware. So for instance, execute code which is encrypted, okay? Other things related to checking on the fly the correct execution of a code. So this is what we call the control flow integrity. Okay, while the code is being run, okay, full speed, without any slowdown during the execution. And those things, so there was this question, and already Avi mentioned about that, to the side channels, okay? What are they, and why are they so scary, and so how to remove them today. Okay, so a couple of things to mention, and so my company, so SecureIC, is actually using RISC-V, okay, even for mass deployment. So it's not maybe so common. There are other companies, but I wanted to mention that. Okay, so I have some issues with. Sorry about that. I don't know what happens. Okay, maybe now it works better. All right. Look. Okay. But now okay. So one thing we believe is that so security is in itself is a very valuable asset. So we have this motto, okay, that security can be worth more value than the cost of the device itself. You see, where do you find security today? Actually, almost everything. If you look, so our customers, so we are in IoT, media, automotive, banking, identity, everything. You see, this is something very important. This technology is not well known because it is really deeply embedded. You see, our customers are chipset vendors, IC design house, and actually, so there is one step which is the design, and another step which is the verification. Okay, you might know, and you've heard about functional verification, but in security, it goes really, really deep because we have things like certification of the security. Okay, and this is a complete business. And when you go to so we had this presentation about the European Processor Initiative. So when you go into applications which are governmental applications, the verification is even more stringent, you see? And again, this is a very important business worldwide. Okay? Then something else interesting, just to mention, so my company is actually a spin-off from a university. We bridge, let's say, between the innovation and the openness culture from the academic world to the mass deployment, you see. And just to finish with the presentation, so it's so security in embedded system is a business which is very sustainable and even which develops quite fast. So starting from France, actually, we opened an office in Singapore, okay, so where we have collaborations with with the local ecosystem. Okay, this Secure project is actually very strategic project for Singapore. So we are also part of it, and we expect a lot from it. And so this is the kind of examples of products where you will find a lot of security subsystems. Okay, and so today actually we deploy 1 billion IP every quarter. Okay, so this is a lot, but those are the figures about IoT. You see, the way we are organized, we design, but also we have another business unit which is doing the verification, and another one which is about the research and understanding the new attacks and finding so the countermeasures. Okay, and those three business lines are profitable. Okay, and of course complementary, because in security we believe that it's not enough just to provide one technology and to pretend it is secure. No, you need to provide strong guarantees, like I mentioned. So evaluation is very important, and this to provide some service in case so new attacks are published, and you know that starting last year with the Spectre meltdown, and this year we also have every month new hardware level attacks. So it's very important to have this service to explain to our customers what is the impact of those attacks, how to plug or fix by software, okay, and to evolve the products. And certification is also something very important. So security in the hardware, it means actually several different kind of competencies, you see. Okay. Now coming to things a bit technical. So the kind of system you will find in a system where you will have the security is what we call a kind of enclave. So it's a sub-module, okay, which is isolated from the rest of the system and which will manage the complete security of all the rest of the system. Typically, it will do the secure boot. Okay, probably you've heard about that, but actually in most of your devices, you have at some point when you power it on, you have a secure boot, and it's a very long sequence of operations, very complex and very risky also because it is attacked. Okay, security service provided by this kind of enclave is also about setting up the keys, managing the life cycle of your system. Okay, and so when you as a customer, you have the system, it's only one step of the life cycle, and usually there are 16 of them. Okay, so most of those, it's the hidden part of the iceberg, but it's about testing, it's about provisioning, it's about also delegating some rights, and in the end, it's end of life of the system, cryptographic services, security events monitoring, etc. So many services which must be provided by the silicon. Okay, so because in this field, the software is something you don't trust. Okay, so you must implement hardware protections. And so typically here you have an ID, it's a kind of block diagram of what you have inside. So of course you have a CPU here, but many other IPs which are here to actually help you maintain your system secure. Okay, like generating the keys. This is a puff Avi was mentioning also. Secure debugging, so nobody can enter into and have a remote debugging session on your system unless they do a challenge response authentication, etc., etc. You see, just to give an example. One example of IoT is the automotive, and this market is now starting so fast and it's so interesting. What are the security issues? When you say security, what do we think about security? So first of all, it's about the safety, okay, because this is mission critical. It's about availability. Okay, you don't want your car not to start the morning. Okay, it will be a very bad day if you have a ransomware in your car. Privacy, and then also security. Okay, like theft of your car or your car being part of a botnet. Okay, those things of course will exist. So to give some names about attacks, you have Trojan, you have tampering, physical tampering, you have replacing parts of your car by other parts, maybe counterfeit, maybe overproduct, maybe not up to date. You know? You have denial of service, okay, and you have a connection with the networks, so all the viruses and etc. from the remote, okay. So many IPs are to be used, okay, and one of those IP will be the CPU, okay. So I will come back to that, okay. But just to give a list, you see, all this is hardware security IPs. You see, it's really a lot you have. Now let's focus on the processor, okay? So I say the three main features we expect from the processor is so to execute code in external flash, okay, control flow integrity, and no leakage, information leakage. So let's start by the execute in place some code in an external flash. Why do we need to execute to external flash? Because we are in the field of embedded systems. And what does it mean? It means that we will develop, so for the example, for the car industry, we tape out things in 10 nanometers. And today, so it's not completely mass deployment, but there are some prototypes in 7 nanometer technologies for which you can have very high-speed logic. But embedded flash is only at 28 nanometer, you see? So you cannot have your code into your chip, okay? It must be external, right? So you know that, of course, and you know the code will be at some point into your RAM, which is external, but now we are in a context of security and you don't trust the RAM, you know? So you have somehow to access flash, which is external, okay? So that's the way we used to design in the past. So you have your processor, okay? Here you have your secure enclave, and volatile memory was internal, you know, for TPM or smart card, like the security, the former generation. But the new generation, the non-volatile memory is outside, and we must deal with that, you see? So at SecureIC, actually, so we build, we are agnostic in the processor, but we can embed RISC-V, okay, with so with those two options, and so the code, if it is external, will be authenticated and will be encrypted, and we need to decrypt and to authenticate on the fly, okay. We are not so much limited about the size of the flash because boot code is usually very small, and also we are not so much concerned about high performance, okay, but we need high security, okay, in this respect. So just to give you an idea of a secure boot, it's a complete verification of physical integrity, you know, so signature or HMAC verification, so a lot of steps like this. Yes. And in case of error, you go here and you reboot. Huh? Okay, that's what happens in the real life. This is a sequence in time, and just to show that, of course, in a system on chip, you know, there is not only the CPU, you have your CPU somewhere here, but you have many other peripherals, okay, including anti-tamper. And those anti-tamper, for instance, can be like hundreds of security sensors. Okay, so it's a lot of logic. And so what happens? You know, in the secure boot, you have no countermeasure. Why? Because the secure boot is here also to check your countermeasure work fine, okay, and you can then activate them and rely on them. But so initially you have no countermeasure, okay? So you need to, you are very vulnerable at this phase of the boot, okay? So this is the first phase of the boot where actually the enclave itself is booting. Second part of the boot is when you boot the host, okay? So you have an external application processor, and so you will, before you let it boot, you will check that its firmware is genuine, okay? So you will do some HMAC or signature before you release its reset, Okay, and so here is something very interesting because you have a complete confusion between data and code. You need to check the code before you jump on the code. Okay, so all this must be handled gracefully by the processor. You see. So CFI. So why CFI? Because if you look at the most frequent attacks, actually you have a lot of code attacks like buffer overflow. It's still a lot. Okay. We implemented a protection. So I will detail. So for instance, here this is a seg fault due to an attack. Okay, and so with a hardware countermeasure, this is in the kernel message. And here, actually, we can detect that something on the stack was corrupted and even report, and if necessary, so here, actually, we crashed the application, but we can even correct and continue in case we need some safety, you see. So how does it work? How do you typically at the boot when you don't have your sensor to detect attacks? How do you do to check that your control flow is executed as intended? So actually, we stack 3 technologies. One which is about the control flow integrity. So you jump or you call only the functions which are whitelisted. Okay, so in the boot code, you don't have like object-oriented programming, so you know where you're going to jump. Okay, so mostly it's written in C, and so you know it's within a list, okay, but finite list. Okay, so you can do your control flow integrity pretty straightforward. Just you have a graph, and and this graph you can completely know it, and so you just check that you remain on your graph. You see, when you return from a function, you need a shadow stack. Okay, so you return to the address which was actually saved in the stack, and so you keep a hardware stack. And for those attacks which would actually change the code, so they can exist, either physical or logical attacks. You will verify the code by some kind of a hash, okay, or key with a CRC with a key, these kind of things. Okay, and so you can definitely cover the complete execution flow and check it is doing as expected. Okay. And to do so, actually, the easiest way, so here CPU is a black box, okay? So we can put here whatever, RISC-V, for instance, and the control code and control flow integrity actually will be managed by another cache, which will fetch in parallel to the instruction some metadata. Okay, so you have an offset in the address, it will fetch the information, and so it will check the graph. Okay, so you have some state machines, blah, blah, blah. And because in the boot, you remember you have the possibility to have many errors, so you must also take into account the interrupts. Okay, but basically, so this is the control of how it works here for the checker, but you can do the code verification full speed, without any, the only impact on the latency is because you have another cache, and so you need to fill not only one cache, but 2 caches. Okay. Okay. So yeah, maybe let me skip that. So micro-architectural leakage. Okay. Actually, so you have 2 kinds of attacks. One kind of attack is those attacks which are purely timing attacks, like Spectre attacks using hyperthreading, ports match, cache bleed, prime and probe, flush, and something like this. Okay, all those attacks, okay, they exploit the same bias, okay, namely the bias that in your software code you have some conditional access flow or conditional pointer arithmetic. So conditional meaning conditional in some sensitive variable S, you see. So when you do things like that, actually you will leak the value of S. Okay, and same for any control statement like this, which depends on S. You see, and all of those basically they reflect some hardware features. Okay, and this list is probably incomplete. All right, but if you manage in your source code, okay, to remove all those lines. Um, so it means basically your code will be straight line, and if you need to make a pointer logic, you will need kind of to have a mitigation like looking all the possible values, something like that, to make what we call the code constant time. And if you make sure your code is constant time, then irrespective of the hardware, so you can completely make an abstraction, those attacks will fail. Okay, so that's the first thing, to mitigate the countermeasures by actually fixing the software. Okay, that's the first thing. But now, you have other so side channels like the meltdown and the zombie load and these kind of attacks, where actually, even if you fix your software, you have a leakage. Okay. And so, if for meltdown, you can even choose what you want to pick. And with zombie load, you just collect and read in the memory what is accessed by another process. Okay, so you just spy on it, not indirectly, but you actually probe the same values the other processes are looking up in memory. You see. So we know this affects Intel processors. Okay, these other variants of meltdown basically affect also the ARM and AMD and I guess a lot of processors which are actually just doing some speculative execution. Huh? So how about RISC-V? Okay. This is an important question for security, because there is the opportunity here to make design for security. So right from the start, and could be could be a requirement, and because you don't have all this legacy we were mentioning during the day. So we can take the security and information leakage as a requirement, okay, to design those processors with security in mind. And so this is one way to have a big deployment, because it will be really a killer application and something which will distinguish the avatar of RISC-V from what is currently available on the market. Okay. So conclusion, I just wanted to make a kind of let's say advertisement. So I'm part in this initiative here about security, safety, sovereignty, and social product. So we have a website here where we actually try to promote some good practices about trusted hardware. Okay, so here I mentioned about resisting attacks, being immune to leakage, but there are other things, and it's a vast topic. So, for instance, how to show that your hardware does not have any Trojan, for instance. Okay, so this is something we want to address in this initiative. Okay, and so a summary, so recap of so the features. So in addition to we had some talks about high performance, but security is also something, as I mentioned, which is valuable, and more, and in Europe, we have this regulation about the privacy. So really we can make something very nice, I believe, in Europe about security, because we care a lot about the privacy of the data, you see. and also because we are a bit neutral between, the Chinese US trade war, So we clearly have something to do. But to do so, what do we need? So this is my wish list of things. In blue, this is something I could not mention, but it's very important to have hardware level memory segmentation. Formal verification is also something extremely important to prove actually the correct functioning of the CPU, okay, and which is actually a requirement in terms of common criteria certification. All right, so also I want to acknowledge European Commission for funding. So actually we are part of this team play project, okay, which deals, you see, with security, but also time, energy in heterogeneous platforms. And that's it. So thank you for your attention. And I welcome questions.
Questions?
Avi, yeah.
You mentioned formal verification, and I just wonder how you can formally verify things like Spectre or Meltdown or anything which is speculative.
Yeah, I mean, this is an excellent question. I think no, there were some patches from Intel. Honestly, I didn't look into them, but I believe they are more about removing some optimization than actually dealing with the leakage. Huh? All right, thank you.